opportunity. It sucks. It's an opportunity that I'd rather not exist, but it does. What can we do better? If anyone had the answer to that magic solution, we'd all be doing it. We're all trying, and we keep trying to throw more stuff against the wall, as do you. And hopefully we'll be able to see some results someday, but gotta be honest, I'm not seeing where that's gonna happen.
I'll just throw in my 2 cents here as the former general manager of the James Randi Educational Foundation, where this was our question of the week every single day.
Yeah.
We failed, but you know what a KPI is?
Key performance indicator.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What does failure mean? What does success mean? What do these things look like? What are you actually trying to accomplish? And I thought about this a lot. And I decided that for me personally, it's getting the information out there for people who want the truth, or as close an approximation to it as possible. And that's why I'm in this room here today, because of all the skeptical things going on in the world post my departure from the JREF in 2010, Skeptoid was the one thing doing that. No politics, no drama, that wasn't unnecessary, no bullshit. It was just, here's a topic, here's the evidence, and if you find something wrong here, let me know and I will fix it. Making people care about that is another problem, and I don't know how to solve it, but for me, I'm focusing on helping people who can start there and get the information out there.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, following up on what Brian said, oftentimes, of course, skepticism it's reactive instead of proactive, right? There's some new claim, and we are necessarily behind the ball because we are responding to some new bullshit. And oftentimes, of course, it's old wine in new bottles, the unsinkable rubber ducks and this and that. But I mean, that's just the nature of what we do. So I don't know that I would accept your premise that we failed or that we are on the losing side of things. We don't know what the world would be like if we were not doing this. Mm-hmm. If Skeptical Inquiry didn't exist, if our podcast didn't exist, if SI wasn't a thing and Psychop and those other things. So, you know, it's like, I think it was Elsbrek de Camp was talking about, you know, the idea of you taking out the garbage, right? It's like, you know, it's you know, in the pseudoscience and all these sorts of things, there's more of the next day, but there's still value in taking it out. And to the extent that we can debunk some things, and to the extent that people reach out to us and say, thank you for explaining this, I didn't realize that. That's a win. That's a win in my book. And we may not we're not changing the world, but if we're reaching out, I mean, if we're doing something, that's more than a lot of people are doing. So that's what I would say. In terms of, you know, can we do better? Absolutely. It's a quickly changing world between misinformation and all sorts of other things like that. So we're doing the best we can.
This will be just kind of a reformation of what's been said so well here, but I mean, Jeff was talking earlier about how, you know, he found the issue of Skeptic Magazine, and that's what got him started. I think we all have our situations like that. I had one teacher who told me about a series of lectures, and that got me from being the Bible study leader at my college to a fresh new skeptic, you know. And so it's creating those contact points, and I know I've been that contact point for a lot of people, and that's just hugely encouraging and energizing here, but we're probably not enough. There's a lot of people in this room who do really good work and put it out there, and we create those moments. We just need more. So I guess my answer would be more of the same and more different. And that's one really cool thing. The more people you get doing it, the more you get expressions of their own personalities, which will connect with different people. I'm all about, like, let everybody do what comes honestly to them, because there's all these questions in skepticism, like, are we hard enough? Are we mean enough? Or are we being too mean? You know what? Do what comes naturally to you, and you'll find that right audience. And maybe someone in their life needs that really hard, mean, abrupt, you know, confrontational media, and then later on they're like, you know what? I don't like that. This really resonates with me, but has the same underlying truth, and that's what we have to keep aiming for.
I agree with everything everybody said.
But
and okay, who here is sick to death of living in unprecedented times. All right, and we started our podcast saying we're not going to ever touch anything political. And just every week it's like, okay, so how does RFK Jr. suck this week? You know? People who study such things have coined this era the post-truth era. Mm-hmm. Some forces, be they Elon Musk, be they just technology, be they the power of charisma that is wearing lots of makeup and a blonde bouffant and getting in front of cameras every freaking second. These forces have taken our little snow globe and shook the hell out of it. And so right now it's the Wild West. And we get to decide what works. We get to decide what to try and see what works. And it might be a whole slew of brand new different things. Skeptoid discovered they needed a new way to fund themselves because advertising went out the window. We're doing stuff like this now. Each of us as a skeptic has the opportunity to make a difference in a micro or a macro way. Macro, we have Susan Gerbic and the Guerrilla Skeptics of Wikipedia that are reaching millions and millions of people. And that has such a ripple effect because a lot of those people are journalists. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know this, but journalists are overworked and lazy. And underpaid. Every newsroom, one of the things I know from my job is we have to, just the facts, make it printable, put it in AP style, because if somebody has to edit it and change one thing, they throw it away. They don't have the time. Again, forces have conspired. Vulture hedge fund companies have bought up newsrooms across America and fired most everybody. So a newsroom that used to have 10 people now has 3. Mm-hmm. So they don't have time to check everything. It's my job to lay things out so that they can easily fact check it, tell their boss that they have fact checked it, and they can print it. Unfortunately, charlatans also know this too. They have PR firms as well. So in the macro way, in the macro form, the people who are going to Wikipedia, the journalists who are using it are then writing stories informed by good facts and science and knowledge. In a micro way, one of the proudest things in my little memory of being a skeptic is I was drawing caricatures online during the pandemic. And I had 5 minutes with this woman on a Zoom camera as I drew her picture, and somehow she brought up flu shots. She was always afraid to get one. And I just had 5 minutes and I chatted nicely with her, and we had a little empathy bond. And I said, a friend of mine is a pediatric infectious disease doctor, and I was always kind of ignoring getting my flu shot too. But he laid out the math for me really easy to understand. The more adults get their flu shot, the fewer dead babies he has to deal with. Whoa. I said, it's if you look at every year, that goes up and down. The more the adults get vaccinated, the fewer children die of the flu. And he's told me what it's like to sit at the bedside with the parents whose child is dying of the flu. And this woman almost got to tears. And I said, I didn't mean to upset you. She's like, no, I just can't believe I've never gotten my flu shot. I'm going to get it every year now. And that was just one person. That was a micro effect. So we all have to it's the Wild West. We get to do whatever we want. Rent a blimp, talk to somebody in the elevator. Whatever you choose, you're not doing it wrong.
Wait, did her caricature have any vaccines or needles in it, or tears?
I gave her 3 eyeballs and autism.
With regards to the question of what can we do better, is more and different approaches. I'm one guy, I was doing one podcast all by myself for like 15 years before we became a nonprofit and had staff, and we had board members, and we got volunteers. And the reason I wanted all of those things was because I knew that one guy doing one podcast does not change the world. But if we can have 10 different shows in 10 different styles by 10 different people representing different demographics, that's where you can reach 10 times the number of audiences. So that's why we are trying to build Skeptoid into a larger org, and that's why all of you people are here, is because your ticket prices helped us get there. So we are working absolutely hard. This is not a money-making venture, okay? I'm not on a get-rich-quick scheme here. I assure you, we are here because we are mission-driven, and because your question, Rob, is of utmost importance to all of us, and we're trying to diversify our approach.
See, Angie, they liked it.
Okay, there was somebody over here. Here you go, Jens.
Don't assume, and Ben has actually reminded me of this many times. He said, don't assume they know what you know. Not everybody knows what you know. And Bill and I actually had good advice, just universal good advice. Everybody you meet will know something you don't. But it goes in the inverse. Everybody you meet, you know something that they don't. So talk to people.
I just agreed heartily, because I do feel that sensation of, like, when I know something, immediately I just assume everybody else has read all the same things and knows all the same stuff.
Nobody has read as much as you. Oh my God, this boy is like book after book after book.
I would be the worst magician. I've asked magicians about this, because, like, I couldn't do a trick in front of someone, because I'd be like, well, you know how I'm doing this. It takes a certain special kind of person to pull that off. It's not me.
No, I'm just, what they were saying is that, and Celeste and I remind each other about this, because like I said, I'll be doing something, it'll be self-evident to me, and she'd be like, that's not self-evident. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I should go ahead and write about it, so.
I'm going to get to you in just a sec, but I want to ask a question. Name a prominent woman in skepticism who is not in this room.
I can name like five.
Oh,
I want the names.
10 or 20.
Eugenie Scott?
Yeah.
Kat McLeod?
If you're living?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Kara Santa Maria.
Cara Santa Maria?
Rebecca Watson.
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. Melanie Trisha King?
Yes.
Melanie, yes, of course.
Dr. Love.
How many of you heard a new name? How many of you heard a new name, had never heard those names before, at least not all of them? There's
Listen, Harriet Hall.
Yeah.
Harriet Hall.
She's big.
Yep.
There is no way you can eliminate her.
No, absolutely not.
Except that she's dead.
She's got the dead problem.
But she lives larger than
I see a point made by
Now-
her every week.
Some of the names came up are controversial. You're not going to get into the controversy. There's no need to do that. The point is, if I had reversed that question and asked about men, it would have been a very different answer. There would have been so many names that could have come up. So I am pretty happy that this group, as very white but diverse as it is, and I think that's actually something to celebrate. But guys, listen to women, talk to the women, find out what they have to say. And I want to ask the women here, Celestia, Susan, you, because you, Angie. I was going to say you, just you.
Dr. Angela Matkey.
Dr. Angie or Dr.
Angie.
That'd be fine.
Laura,
Just kidding.
Laura,
Laura.
Laura. Every time I'm going to say it wrong, Adrian. Doesn't matter what I say. Adrian, yeah, I said Adrian. Kathy is not a public figure in the way, yeah. So, you guys are pioneers in a way, still in a time way beyond when you should be pioneers. Look at this, 3 men up here and only 1 woman, right? This panel was picked by a woman.
Why do you throw Kathy?
I'm not. I'm just pointing out that we still have this problem that, and I don't think the problem is that men are keeping women, that is a problem, but that's not what I want to focus on. I want the women to tell the other women here that it is okay to stand up in front like you own the goddamn place, because you do. You own it just as much as anybody else. Susan, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I was just wondering why, when we said name some prominent women who are not in this room, the women were the ones who answered. Almost no men said anything.
Richard did.
Well, Richard, of course, but the other thing to remember is I've come along from a long ways, and let me tell you, this was a very male world in the skeptic community, and we've come a long way. We are way better than we used to be, and also the people in charge of a lot of these organizations, CFI, Australian Skeptics, my group, were female. it seems like a lot of the people who are starting to be in charge behind the scenes are female. So we are getting there. The men are the ones who do the more talking, but I think the women are really making inroads.
Kathy Reitweiler, stand up and wave hello.
Yeah, Kathy's in charge. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to miss you, Kathy, but no, that's true. We're seeing in the European skeptics used to be a woman in charge. New Zealand skeptics, that's a woman in charge, and on and on and on. So it is working.
And in line of
Have
like,
hope.
in line of that, we are in unprecedented times, and skepticism is moving all over the place. The
Oh, you rep.
we
I
have
have something to add.
we historians.
Sorry.
Does anybody here consider historians innate skeptics?
Oh yes, yeah.
There's a lot of female historians, and I forget who mentioned this. It might have been on this cruise. It might have been something I saw online. But somebody recently said, yeah, they need historians to also inform the CDC, because if they're wondering whether or not vaccines work, ask a historian. They know the profound effect that vaccines had. You know, you don't have to walk through a Victorian cemetery. Just ask somebody who can tell you economically, sociologically, what happened when different vaccines were introduced. And we need to hold hands with the historians, bring them in, make it. You know, it's been a big tent, but there's tons. I read Heather Cox Richardson every night, and
She's keeping millions of people safe.
and that is another way we could co-opt. If somebody wanted to write a Today in Skepticism and write a skepticism letter that you could read in 10 minutes every day, they would do a lot of good.
And also
Ben.
folklorists.
I was just gonna say also folklorists. You know, I'm one-hand folklore, and most folklorists are women.
G.E. Banks,
Yeah, Jeannie Banks Thomas. We had many. I think
Daisy Allstone.
we've had. I think most of them. Well, she
A
they,
lot of
but
females in
yeah, and so and there's of course lots of crossover between skepticism and folklore, because we recognize these as ghost lore and urban legends just from the get-go, because that's what they do. So yeah, another case of where, you know, a heavily female-dominated field can absolutely inform.
So TAM and the JREF was all run by a woman by the name of Linda Schallenberger. She stayed in the shadows. Some people knew that, but everything that happened with the JREF, Randy being where he needed to be on time, everything was due to Linda Schallenberger. And Kathy's the Linda Schallenberger of Skeptoid.
Yay!
And also the Pat Lindsay.
Pat Lindsay, absolutely.
The Schirmer Skeptics.
Absolutely.
She was running the show.
Yeah. Okay, Angela. I'm gonna hold the mic this time so I don't get yelled at.
I'm not gonna yell at you. I'm just, I am. Okay, fine. So, so if y'all haven't been to Dragon Con, I'm the host and the assistant director of Dragon Con. So we need y'all to have skeptic track, but also I wanted to point out that, like even in my professional society, American College of Emergency Physicians, now they're becoming more represented in the board and the leadership positions, but women are often in their peak earning years at about the time when they would be able to really meaningfully contribute to not only professional societies, but also to opportunities like this, but are still doing the majority of the labor at home. And Celestia, you work harder than just about anybody I've ever met. So it's just something to point out that this is a deeper problem in our society. So, I mean, it's not just a problem with skepticism, it's a problem in our society.
Thank you very much.
Everybody change your Siri to a man.
Say that again?
I said, everybody change your Siri to a male voice.
Oh, Siri, not Series. Siri.
Siri and Alexa,
Yeah.
make them male.
Go ahead, say the name of the book and then we'll move on.
Tracy Spicer wrote a book called, what was the book? I forgot. Man-Made. And it convinced me that there is a deeply entrenched male bias about ordering women around, and that's one of the reasons why Siri and Alexa are female.
Okay, thank you very much.
I will
Does
do
someone have a
that.
question? Now everyone,
Happy birthday, Nick.
Suddenly, as we're running out of time, everybody has a question.
We
Okay.
don't
So-
have dinner till 6.
So I want to actually touch on what Celestia was saying about like when you learn something and you're like, well, that's common knowledge, everybody knows it. And like I've listened to Squaring the Strange, and I read like Skeptical Inquirer, and Ben and like Blake and Monster Talk, and like we're roughly the same age. And hearing their histories, I got into skepticism like in my early 20s after being like a believer in UFOs, stuff like that. And I always wanted to do something, but it was kind of like a combination of like imposter syndrome, and then also like, well, yeah, but what I have to say, like people know that no one's gonna care. And so it's like, what's your suggestion to fighting that, like putting it out there, knowing that like, or believing that, well, what I have to contribute, people are gonna be like, well, yeah, duh, as opposed to like actually just putting it out there.
Well, let me start with that one, because I've dealt with that with people like Kenny Biddle and Daniel Reed and others, where someone come up to me exactly like you at Dragon Con or Skeptics thing, and they're like, I'm interested in these things, I don't really know how to get into them. My answer is contact me, email me, write something, right? And people are like, well, I'm not a writer. That's fine, I'm an editor. It's my job to make you write. Don't worry about that. I will help you. You have experiences, you have a whole history and knowledge and stuff that I don't have, background in UFOs and this and that and the other. So that would be my advice, would be to think of something that you can uniquely write. Something that Brian can't write, Celestia can't write, something that you know. And put it down on paper. Again, you don't need to be Hemingway. I'm thinking Hemingway because Key West. But and reach out to me. And if there's a space in Skeptical Inquirer magazine or online, wherever else, I'll be happy to sort of help you get in the door. And that goes for anybody, men, women. I just reach out to me. I'm accessible. You know where I am. You know where I live. Well, you know where I live, but you know where my face is. And yeah, so that's. And what I found is that sort of it gives us self-legitimizing. We're like, wow, I do have something to say, and it's like it's kind of it can help give a voice. Is my thing.
Let me interject that's how I started writing Skeptical Inquirer. I sent an unsolicited article, and Ben asked me to be a writer for the magazine.
Story checks out. I remember being in those exact same shoes. Like I felt podcasting was already well established back in 2011 when I started mine, and now that seems so very long ago. But I was listening to Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, I was listening to Skeptoid, I was listening to Point of Inquiry, and listening to Point of Inquiry was how I found out there was a CFI in Los Angeles. I had no idea, I lived there, and I've been involved ever since that one mention on a podcast. But I remember that exact same thought, like, well, how can I contribute? There's so many people doing this so well. And it was when my friend Carrie and I at the time, we realized we were the only ones in our book club who wanted to go to a Kabbalah lecture. And we both had a light bulb moment, which was, oh, well, maybe this first-hand investigation thing is something original, and maybe trying to be really nice about it, not being too harsh or critical, at least not to people, hopefully just to the ideas. It gave us like this feeling of, okay, well, we're doing something different. And like Ben just said, something that's uniquely you, that someone else couldn't do. So hopefully that's encouragement, that I remember having that exact same thought.
All good points. And be nice. Be accessible but not annoying. And everybody's talked about writing or podcasting in terms of reaching out and doing skeptical outreach and work. Be that one guy on your Facebook feed. I mean, you probably have a lot of people like that on your Facebook feed, but I guarantee you have people that you know in your circle that are not skeptics at all. Be somebody, like how you go to college and there's like the hall, what do they call them? The RAs, the residential...
Hall monitor?
No, the residential advisors.
RDRA.
Yeah, the person who was like, oh, they're not a freshman, they're like a junior, and if we have any questions, we go to them. Be somebody like that. Like I had a friend of mine from high school. Again, I've got a lot of friends who are not skeptics. One of them was like, Celestia, my sister is in the basement because she thinks there's a UFO over her house. Can you talk to her? So on Facebook, I'm talking to this other person, saying all the things it could be besides a UFO. I forget how that all resolved. It was years ago, but be the person that your friends when they have a friend of a friend. You have when they have a question like, hey, I've got this, you know, my friend's aunt is going to this reflexologist to treat her sciatica. Is there anything to reflexology? And oh, yeah, I can give you some information. Not like, well, your friend's aunt is a dumbass, you know, just. Of course, everybody wants to find some way to reduce their pain, and she's gonna think it's working. Here's why she's gonna think it's working. Here's why testimonials are always easy to get, because the people who it doesn't work for are dead, you know. So little by little, and I try to post on Facebook and other social media, not to the point where everything I say is just dumb people, you know, but just make them aware that you are a person who researches this stuff, because people love shortcuts. If you tell them that you've read the book and you'll give them the cliff notes, they will be happy to take advantage of that.
But ChatGPT said. And let me tell you,
Don't get me started on
another thing alongside would be Mick West's book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole.
Yes.
Is very good for talking to people who are in conspiracy theories and that mindset, and he lays out very clearly how to engage with them. And you don't call them stupid, you don't call them an asshole. What you say is, help me understand why you believe this. Help me understand why. Explain this to me, right? And of course, oftentimes they can only get one or two steps before they can't explain it, and oftentimes they realize that they're like, well, when I watched the YouTube video, it made sense, but now that I have to explain this to you, this doesn't make any sense. And it's just sort of things like that. So,
yeah, following Mick West on Twitter, or Shitter, or whatever we call it these days, that's a masterclass in how to engage respectfully and kindly and productively. He will not let anything pull him into the mud pit. He always takes the high road. If some moron sends him a 300-word text or tweet that has maybe one valid question in it, buried in 50 insults, he responds to the one question and ignores the rest of it. I can't do that. He's much more patient and better at it than me.
real quick, I'm just going to add on to this one topic because it's deep to my heart. One thing I learned working at the JRIF dealing with the $1 million claim applicants was, if they've seen a ghost or they've seen an alien or they have a magic power and they are believers, not people trying to fool you, they have something special. This is important to them. It is the best thing in their life, and you're going to take it away from them. That is something to consider when you're talking with these folks.
That's something that's always been kind of one of my guiding principles in Skeptoid, is because I know that every episode is directly attacking somebody's sacred cow. And you never want to do that. If you have to do that, it should only be because that's a necessary stepping stone to getting toward, here's what's real and here's what's actually going on and here's what's actually important that you should know about and that you should be paying attention to. So I have to always avoid merely stopping at being negative and going the extra mile and giving them something positive on top of what they already had.
There was someone over here. Was it Jens? You did. All right, we have time for one more. Who's going to be the one?
I have something, but I think they just did.
Okay.
I have something about you just said, please.
So you make a very good point there, Brian, though I think both like books, podcasts, and these other kind of add or remove media allows you to do something that you can't do in conversation. Because if you do kind of go straight for someone's sacred cow, that's immediately going to put up the defense mechanism and they're not going to listen to you. Now in a book, when the power of when you're reading a book or listening to a podcast is that person's not right in front of you. Your fidelity to that idea is not actively being tested. You don't need to defend it. Now, of course, how you word things in a book or in a podcast are obviously very important, but I think it's a rare opportunity where you get someone having a little more ownership over the information that they're receiving, and that you can give them an opportunity to question that important thing to them in the safety of not having someone expecting an answer from them in that moment. They can chew on it and they can feel ownership of the conclusions they reach later on in a way that you can't in direct conversation. So just adding that as like a power of both the podcast medium and writing as a medium.
Okay, time for one more question. It is Jens again. Thank you, Jens. You're saving me. I appreciate that. Okay, you're saving everyone, really.
This might be a really short answer. In fact, I hope it is. But I'm just curious, has there ever been a topic you have refused to or avoided dealing with because of legal risks?
Specifically because of legal risks. Okay, good question.
Well, I'll just jump in because I have a ready answer that I've already kind of addressed, and that's Scientology. We were very hesitant to jump into that topic, to even go to the center, because we thought, well, they probably have already heard about us. Fun thing is that the various flam organizations don't talk to each other. They don't share information whatsoever. So rest assured on that. But we thought we'd very quickly be Googled, and turns out Scientology also has kind of a built-in mechanism there, because they don't want their people spending too much time on the internet. They might read negative stuff. But we were very concerned about their litigiousness, and we kind of held off for a few years, and thankfully sort of shortcutted that by starting with just a personality quiz and let things go where they went, and it took them a little longer to catch on to us than we thought they would. That being said, we've had various ceases and desists over the years, and usually you can ignore those, because they're usually not based on anything. As long as you're doing what you're legally allowed to in terms of recording and reporting, there's not much they can do to stop you.
Yeah, I've never not tackled the topic because of fear of legal consequences. The one time that jumps out at me was I was investigating the disappearance of a woman, Holly Bobo. It was maybe 15 years ago. It was a Tennessee woman, blonde, and she just vanished. And it was one of those where I was investigating in real time the real life disappearances. And so I went on these psychic websites, and I was capturing and screenshotting information that they were giving about what happened to Holly. And I wrote a piece for, I think it was Discovery News, and I published it. And then I think 2 days later, I got an email from my editor at Discovery. It's like, so we're forwarding this to you, Ben. Apparently, the person that ran the psychic website was threatening to sue me because I had taken information from the website. It was accurate. It was all verbatim, nicely done. But it was this thing like, well, this is, but it was clearly fair use, just to be clear. And so I wrote back. I said, I said, thank you for this. I'll address this and I'll CC you. And I wrote back to the lawyer and I said, let me just make sure I understand. So, your client is objecting to me publicizing information that your client says can help solve this missing persons case. Is that correct? Your psychic client don't want me to tell the world what you posted on your site that might save this woman's life. Never heard back.
Hey.
Ben has several times on the podcast said, "Oh, I hope they sue us." Talking about. I will point out that the podcast is a production of my company, my LLC. So he's urging people to sue me.
Bring it on.
I can't think of a time I've really shied away from because of legal reasons. We both of us have worked in publishing. We understand fair use. We used a lot of clips from that psychic, look into my eyes documentary. But she was a legit documentarian. She knows she can't sue for somebody commenting and critiquing her work. Siskel and Ebert would have been sued every week. I think we haven't covered chiropractic yet. Not because we're worried about a chiropractor, but because it's a complicated topic. And my father was a chiropractor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I helped out in his office when I was younger. He was the kind of chiropractor that would put magnets on your feet and measure your legs. and put some supplements on your belly and tell you you were allergic to stuff. But I can't get into that while my mother's alive. So we might just, wait a while.
Last topic I covered on my podcast was chiropractic. So listen to that while you wait for her mom to die.
Whoa, too soon.
So I have a policy of, what?
As your lawyer, I advise you not to answer that question.
Very wise man. I will just say that at the JREF, Randy was always like, you want to sue? Bring it. We had a great lawyer. We had fun with them. We were sued by God, who claimed that Randy stole his powers, and the guy knew this because he was God, so he sued us, and that was accepted as a case. It wasn't dismissed.
That's PR, that's not.
Yeah, it's all
And so
pure
it was
PR.
fine. However,
PR.
and this is a little inside baseball, but I left the JREF in 2010 at a time when the staff was working on a takedown of a major skeptic.
Skeptic.
A major psychic who was popular at the time, and we called it Project Gamma. Some of you may have heard about it. And it was a traditional Randy-style takedown of the psychic. And when the management of the JREF changed at that time, the new management said, "No, that's too risky. Someone might sue us," and shut it down. And I left. And that's how things were then. So, folks,